Okay, I think we can start now. Thank you.
Oh, no problem.
Should there be anyone else here, or is it just you?
No, just me.
Okay.
All right, so this is what we're going to be making today. You can see it's a simple to-do app. The task here, let's say host bootcamp session 2. And then we can click to select these things, or cross them out, sorry. And we can also remove them. All right, and just to set everyone up, we have a template here that we should all download. I will send that in chat. And once you have that open, just go to the top right corner, hit where it says code in green, and then download a zip. And save it. I have it saved to my desktop, and then once you have that open, right click and just extract. And once you have that open, we will get started. Could I just get like a thumbs up or reaction once you have that done? All right, hello. So I'm just going to send the link again to the person who joined. Once you have that link open, top right corner, and download zip, and then should be good to go. And we will also, as a reminder, we will be using this thing called Node.js to run JavaScript on our computers. Does anyone not have that installed? All right, take that as a yes. Once you have this app open, you can hit, or once you have the code open in Visual Studio Code, you can hit Control and the tilde, which is in the top left corner of your keyboard, to open the terminal. Or you can press Control-Shift-P and type terminal and create two new terminal. And then once you have that open, we can go ahead and type npm run start. And this will start our development server so we can see all of our changes. And while that's loading, we will be doing, I will talk about what we'll be using. We will be using this library called React.js. And what a library is basically pre-written code that's really well tested by people around the world. So we don't have to write a lot of the code as a result. And React is really popular. It's actually created by Facebook, or now Meta. And it's used in apps like Notion, Spotify, and that serves as the framework for those apps. It's still starting. Does anyone have any questions about React while we're waiting? All right, awesome.
Are there any extensions you have to download, or?
Not for this, no.
But in the command like terminal, right?
Yes,
NPM
that's yes, Ansh. That's and we have to download Node and npm.
Oh, okay. Just whoever, just you can download that. So.
All right, hi Alex. So what we'll be doing, if you could get that site open and hit the top right corner, there's a code button, and hit download zip and open that in Visual Studio Code, and then yeah. All right. So we're going to be adding our add button to start. So at the top right corner, first we have to have the add folder selected in the top right corner, the new file. Hit the new file button and type index.js as the file name. All right, to whoever joined, I will send it again. That is in the top right corner, you'll see a green download button. Once you open that link and hit download zip, and then extract that and open in Visual Studio Code. And once you have that set up, you want to open this terminal here by pressing Control and tilde, which is the top left, in the top left corner, it's the little wave, and that will allow you to open the terminal. And then you would want to type npm run start as the command. And just as you want to have npm JS installed. And you can install from there. All right, awesome. So if everybody's caught up, I will continue with the code. So again, we added an index.js file in the add folder. And once we have that done, let's import this styling file that's already pre-written. So we will type import and then /. So // means we want to look in the current folder that this file is in, / index.css. And once we have that set up, let's import this index.js file into our app. We want to be able to import the add button. So we do import, again, /, look in this folder, and then we go to the add folder. And because we named it index.js, it'll automatically look for that file. So we don't have to do anything else. And let's give this file a name. Let's call it import add from /add. And then React gives us this ability to use this file, basically like an HTML tag. So what we can do is type add here with capital A and then hit tab. And then that will put the add button within this div. Hit save. And then you can see this error here that we don't actually have any code in there, basically. All right, so let's actually write that code now. The amazing thing about React is that it allows us to split these parts of the user interface into these things called components, and each component in the newest version of React is basically a functional component. They call it a functional component. What that means to us is that each component will be represented with a function. So to do that in JavaScript, you type the keyword function and then just the function name, and then these open and close parentheses, and then the open and closed curly brackets. And then we just want to return some HTML. So I'll type return and then the open and close parentheses. And then div dot add container. And then if you have this is installed by default now. And then we hit tab, and this will allow you to, Visual Studio Code will automatically put this div inside our function. And then we want to, you can see the error down here that's not found. It's because we never exported this. So we want to do export default add. And if we look here, we have a div that's styled. In case you ever get lost during the presentation, this is the code that I'll be working on for step 1. In the industry, we have this, a lot of industries like Amazon use this application called Figma, which is used for designers to mock up a website and then be able to communicate their ideas to a developer. So what we did here is we made a Figma mockup for this website. And you can see we're trying to add an input in this div. Trying to add an input in here. So let's add an input by typing input and then hit tab again. That'll automatically give us a really nice little input component. And let's add a placeholder for to say add a note. Placeholder. Placeholder for add a note, and then let's add a button. And let's give this a class of add-button. And again, where add-container and add-button are coming from is from this CSS file. You can see add-container and add-button. And just because we're in a really small group here, don't feel free to type in chat for me to slow down. And then we want to give this add button this nice plus icon. So we want to add a picture, type IMG, and then you can use the arrow key to go down to where it says S. Sorry. IMG, and then colon SRC. And this will allow you to add an image. Ooh, never mind. Type IMG and then hit tab. And then in the source property, we'll want to specify that this image that we're looking for is in the icons folder. So we do icons slash, you can see we have an image, add.svg. And we save, and you can see here, it pops up. All right, now I want to introduce something called controlled components in React. To show you what I mean, I'm going to first add some code, which I will explain later. And just try to follow along. So what I've added is this thing called state. What state is, it allows us to manage state essentially. What state is it's a variable that I can update and display really easily using the React structure. And this is this is actually really confusing for me when I first started. So I'll just show you what I mean. Let's make it so that the value of this input, the text inside this input, will always equal the variable here that's text. So I'll add the value attribute and then use these curly brackets to pass in the variable text. And then we want to have a function to run every time there is a change in the input. So we update the text every time, the variable text every time there is a change in the input. So let's type function change handler event, open curly brackets, and then, sorry, this is set text. And then we want to set text to this, to event.target.value, which is basically the text that got changed. So if we open developer tools, we notice that and we also have to link this input or this change handler to the input by typing on change equals open brackets, change handler, close curly brackets. And if we open developer tools, you can see that with each update, you can see that we can now access the state. The state here will change will reflect the text inside the input. And that basically allows us later down the road to just look at the text variable and get what the input is holding. All right. And React is currently giving us an error, and we will solve that by passing the use state an empty string by typing with the single quotes. All right, and that concludes the add button. So now let's look at the rest of our app. We have this this top part, which seems to be held in a container up here. So let's just type div.top. And again, where that last name of top is coming from is from this pre-made I'm sorry. Let's give it a class name of list so we can actually list these items down here. And then while I'm going to the next step, does anyone have any questions? All right. So now we'll be doing a similar thing to implement the item component right here for each item. So in our file structure, add an index.js to the item folder. And similarly import the CSS file for that. So import /index.css, and that'll import the CSS file for this item. Once we have that done, let's just make another function by typing function item return parentheses div.item and then tab, and then hit enter to go into that div input. And here you can see we want to make it a checkbox. Just select checkbox and then give it a class name of item-check. And I will be working inside this file now. So that's the completed code that I've sent. And now we want to have some text go along with that checkbox. So we will type label and then hit tab. And then in this HTML4, we want to use the HTML4 to link the label and the input together. So for now, let's just give both an ID of 2, or just call it item 1. And to see why this is useful, let's go back to the app.js file. And in the list div, let's just type item with a capital I, hit enter to add the item, and then obviously import the item from the item folder by typing import add item from the single quote /item and then the single quote again. And then again, we want to export default item in the in the index.js file in item. For now, we can just give it some test text inside the label, and you can see here we have our element. And let's give the label a class name of item-text. This will this will allow the CSS to select label as well. So you can actually cross it out. All right. And finally, we want to add the button to actually delete that item. So let's do button.remove, hit tab, and then import similarly an image by typing img and then tab, and then icons/close.svg. You can see we have our close icon added. And then if you want in the alt field, you can type X. This is like in case the image never loads, which shouldn't happen. All right, fantastic. We will now move on to step 3. Every time we want to change the text, we want to be able to control the text of inside this item from app.js. So let's try typing something like text in item, give it a text property equals ABCD. But you can see it doesn't update here. So what we want to do is actually get the text property inside our item class, our item component. So in index.js inside the item folder, we want to type open curly brackets and actually get that text value. And then on line 8, we will delete our test text and use the open curly brackets again to signify to React that we're typing code in here and not actually text. And we want to display whatever text that is. And you can see immediately here, our item is now updated with the ABCDE text that we have in app.js. And we also want to be able to control the actual state of the component, whether it's checked or not from app.js. So let's do a similar thing by getting the completed property and the ID from wherever the component is used. And in the input type equals checkbox, let's add a new property and say checked equals completed. And again, I'm using the curly brackets to signify that this is code and not text. All right. And then let's go back to our app.js file, and with the cursor inside the item, line with the item, we can do Alt-Shift down on the keyboard, and you can see we can duplicate this multiple times. Or it might be Control-Shift-D. And you can see this is the beauty of React. We can write minimal code to duplicate this component a lot of times. All right, let's delete that. And now we want to be able to pass in some data and display that item. So let's do const. You don't have to follow this. I'm just writing some. Some example code to show what I mean. Let's say we have all of these items and we want them all to display in this app. What we want to do is, you still don't have to follow. So what we want to do is, and you should follow this part, is add some code with the curly brackets and do items.map. Items.map. Give me 1 second while I find it. Items.map. Want to type items.map and then open parentheses pass in the actual item, equals, arrow key, and I will send the code for this. This step now. Item.map, item, and then equal sign, angle bracket, curly bracket, and then we want to get the, I'm a full screen of this. Up here is a button to split the editor. We want to be able to read the text item of each, the text property, excuse me, of each item. So we would do const text equals item dot text. And we also want to read the ID. So const ID equals item dot ID. And then similarly, const completed equals item dot completed. All right. And then we want to, instead of item down here, we want to move it up into the map function and return that item. So you can see here that we have a bunch of items, A, B, C, D, E, that follow the amount of the length of this list. So we want to update the text value to actually be the text of that item. So text equals text, and then ID equals ID, completed equals completed. All right, and as you can see, we can change these values here and everything will be updated. And I'll just send this. And you can copy paste the code from the last link I sent. It's very similar. But now the problem is, if we want to change these items, we have to change it inside the code. And obviously that's not very user-friendly. So let's go to the next step, where we want to actually implement the add button. So let's delete all of this constant, and let's use the use state hook again. Rather, let's install the local storage hook first. I know I'm throwing a lot of words at you right now, but I'm trying to get it in 1 hour. But please let me know if there are any questions. Use local hook is, or use local storage, sorry, is actually not included in the I just realized that we were not able to follow along because we did not install all the packages we needed. So if we do npm and then I, that command will basically install all of the packages that are specified for this folder. And you can see it's installing, but I already have them installed. While that's installing, you can go ahead and click the new terminal button. And we want to install the pack. We want to be able to install the package. What do you mean Ansh, it doesn't work? Ansh, what do you mean it doesn't work? npmi. All right, hi Hannah, thank you for joining us. I will just send you the link to where we are right now. And Hannah, in the top right corner, you'll see the code button and you can go ahead and click download zip. And that will allow you to follow along with the code that we're currently writing. Ansh, you don't have the npm package installed. And again, that is the link to install npm. All right, awesome. Are there any other questions before I move on? All right, so let's install the package that allows us to look at the local storage. And what local storage basically is that it's like a containerized storage space for each website, and that allows us to save what the user has added to their to-do list. So let's in a terminal, let's type npm I, short for install. You can also type out the word install, use hooks -ts. And again, to open this terminal, we want to hit Control and tilde on the keyboard. Or we can hit Control-Shift-P to open the command palette and type terminal. And down here will be, somewhere in this list will be a command to create a new terminal. All right. And as you can see, the package has been added. Thank you, Ansh. All right, now that we have that added, let's go back to our app file and type const items, comma, set items equals use local storage. You can see down here that use local storage is not defined. That's because we need to import it. So let's do import use local storage from use local storage. I'm sorry, use hooks -ts. And the package install should have been npm I use hooks use hooks is one word -ts. And we want to surround use local storage with curly brackets. And the reason why is found in the documentation. But I will save you that time. All right, and as you can see, and then we want to obviously type in the name of we want to basically tell the use local storage hook what name the storage is found under. So let's just give it a random name. We can call it items, you can call it anything you want. And then we want this to be in an array. And array is just basically a list of items, and that's signified by the square brackets. So that's items in quotes, comma, the square brackets. All right, and now let's add a function to actually add items. So let's do function add handler. We can take in the text that we want to add, curly bracket, set items, parentheses, current items equals arrow, and a curly bracket again. Rather, square bracket. Dot, 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 current items. And what this is doing so far is we're taking the current items and we're putting it in a new list. And the dot, dot, dot just means to spread all the elements within this new list. Comma. I want to make a new object of text. And remember, this is the text that I passed in. Text comma is just text shorthand for text. The text will be text. Completed, obviously it's false, or you can make it true by default, up to you. And then we want to give it a random ID. So how we do this is by adding another package called UUID. How we will do that is by typing npm iUUID in a terminal. You can use this plus button to add that new terminal. And while that's installing, we can just do import curly bracket v4 as UUID v4. And the reason why it's so long, I have no idea. It's from their documentation, which is Googleable, but I'm again saving you that time. All right. And from the documentation again, to generate a random ID, I would just call the UUID v4 function. I call that with and I run that function, excuse me, with the parentheses to actually run that. All right, and now we want to make it so that every time we click the add button, we run the add handler. So let's just give an attribute to add down here, add handler equals, and let's pass in the add handler. And then let's go to index.js under the add folder, index.js. And let's, in the function line, we want to type the curly brackets and then add handler to actually be able to read the attribute that we just passed it. And then let's say on the button, let's do every time it's clicked. So we type on click equals curly brackets. And then we do a function with the parentheses and then another arrow, so equals brackets, and then add handler again. Open and close parentheses. And basically, this means on click, we want to run the add handler. And this arrow function is basically shorthand for typing out function, function add handler, function on click. But instead of typing all of that out, we just do the arrow. This is called the arrow notation. All right, so let's test this. We can put in some random text here. And you can see it is not added, and that is because we never passed the add handler our text. So in add handler, let's pass in this variable in line 6, text. And we can try again, and you can see it is perfectly added now. All right, are there any questions? That is the implementation of the add handler in the app.js file. And that is our updated index.js file for the add component. And again, if you ever want to look back at this, I have commented the code files in detail. All right, so if there are any questions, we can go on to step 5. So step 5 is implementing the delete button. As you can see here, we cannot delete these. So in a similar fashion to passing the add handler to the add component, let's pass a delete handler to the item component. So in the line where we return the item component, let's type delete handler equals curly brackets and then delete handler. And you can see here that React is complaining because delete handler, we never defined it. So let's type function, let's define this, delete handler ID, we want to be able to read the ID that we want to delete, curly brackets, and then set items. And then inside set items, you want to pass another function, current items, the arrow equals, and then the angle bracket, current items dot filter. This is a long one. Current items dot filter, open parentheses, item, close parentheses, another arrow, item dot ID does not equal ID. All right, so I'm going to distill this down. What does this line even mean? Well, basically, we're taking what filter does is filter will run the function inside here. And when that function returns true, we get all the elements where that function returns true. And then we obviously leave out all the items where that function returns false. So in this case, we're looking for all the items that don't match the ID that we want to delete. And then again, I have also commented that in the code for this step. All right, let's go back to the index.js file in the add folder. And now let's actually run this add handler, because you can see we've never actually run the add handler, or the delete handler, sorry. We're in the index.js file under item, and then we want something to happen whenever the remove button is clicked. So we want to do on click equals curly bracket, and then we actually want to call the delete handler. So we type, again, our shorthand notation, open parentheses, and then equals, angle bracket, delete handler, and then then pass it the ID of this item. And we actually want to read again the delete handler from the item, or that's passed from app.js. And now you can see everything is being deleted properly. Are there any questions? And I will send the updated code for the item as well. All right. So if there are any questions, we will go to the last step where we implement the toggling on and off of these components and actually saving that state. So we will be working again, similarly, in the index.js file under item and the app.js file. All right, so again, let's get the toggle handler for this item. And then we want to do an on change event, but this time for the input checkbox. Let's do in the input component, let's type on change equals open curly bracket, parentheses, opening and closing equals, angle bracket, toggle handler, and then pass it the ID, similar to what we did down here in line 17, delete handler ID. In app.js now, let us actually write the code to toggle that item. So let's type function, toggle handler. Again, we've got to take the ID, curly bracket, and then set items, and then another function, current items, in parentheses, equals, angle bracket, current items dot map. And what map does is it basically remaps an array. So what that means is it takes an array and it can transform each item based on the function that you pass it. So let's write a function where we take the element, or we take the item, and we return the same item, but we just return it with the opposite completed state. So if it's true, if completed is true, you want to return false. If completed is false, you want to return true. So let's do if the ID matches. So if item.id equals ID. And the reason for the 3 equal signs as opposed to 2 equal signs or 1 equal sign is because equals checks both the type and the actual value of that variable. It's an advanced concept, and just for now, just remember to always use 3 equal signs and not 2. And the reason why we don't use 1 is we don't want to set the ID of each element to the ID that we passed in. All right, so if the item matches, then we want to return the item, but override the completed state. Override the completed state. And else we will just return the item itself. Just give me one. All right, sorry about that. I had to get to the door. Let's actually call the toggle handler. Let's actually pass the toggle handler to the item. Toggle handler equals, in the same fashion as we passed the delete handler. All right, are there any questions so far? All right, so right now we have this error expected an assignment or function call, and you can see it has given us a line number and a file. That is because we didn't add the return keyword to actually return the item. All right. And then give me 1 second. All right, and that will conclude our to-do app. Are there any questions? And again, the code can be, I'll send the link to the full code that we got after all of these steps. And you can hit download on that. And just looking forward, right? What can we do with all of this information? What can we do with all of this information? So our next bootcamp is the session to actually publish this code to a website. And I urge you to explore the code and see what happens when, for example, I just make I change the class name, for example. How would that affect the list? Or if I change the styling and I change the color, like how can I make this more unique? How can I make this fit myself? And looking forward again, as this is a hackathon out and our theme is education, how can we maybe add things to it like streak tracking or Pomodoro? And what's so cool about this is that React is highly structured, unlike just using JavaScript by itself. You can see how we split everything into their own folders, into add, into item, whereas in normal JavaScript without using React, you would need to write either a lot more code to be able to get to this point, or have them all under a couple files and just split all over the place. And of course, to finish all these boot camps up, we always highly urge you to ping us if there are any dev problems. A hackathon isn't just a competition, it's to learn new things and explore new technologies. All right, thank you all for coming. If none of my co-hosts have anything else to add, you are free to go.
Yeah, so we will be having